All right. We are live again with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I'm Craig LeBlanc, the doorman, your host, with Nick from the city of Watsonville, California. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, Greg. Thanks for having me today.
How is the weather in California? Is it as beautiful as it is here in Louisiana?
It's a little bit overcast today. The past couple days were like mid 70s, so can't complain about that. But
Yeah,
yeah, a little gloomier today.
yeah. California always got the best weather in spades, it seems.
Oh yeah.
Well, um, yeah, so Nick is one of those it's a great story of how he was in Parks and Rec from early on, even in high school as a volunteer. And because we want to create content that's relevant for high school and college kids considering this as a career path, I think it's really important for Nick to kind of go back in those days and see what his life was back then. What are the seeds that were planted early on that in Parks and Rec, and why he chose this as a career path in his life. So Nick, maybe you could take us back to what was it, 15-year-old Nick, 16-year-old Nick? How
Yeah, just about. Yeah. So I mean, not to age myself, but I've been in the field of Parks and Rec, working as a paid professional, part time, full time, for a little over 30 years. Yeah, if you roll back the clock to when I first started, yeah, about 14, 15 years old. But I think my Parks and Rec story starts way before that. Also, I was born in Richmond, California, in the East Bay area, kind of in Northern California, and lived there till I was 8 years old when my parents got divorced, and my mom moved my sister and I to Half Moon Bay, California, which is a little coastal community, kind of what would I say, like west of kind of the Silicon Valley area. And she was a small business owner, single mom, and so we grew. My sister and I grew up in the Parks and Rec programs that our local city offered, whether it was theater programs or the after school program at my elementary school, summer camp programs, what have you. It really is, or was, what I think nowadays we call kind of our third space, right? Like the space outside of school or work and home. The rec
how
leaders.
old how old were you then? You said when you started after school care?
8 years old.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And so that's what second or third grade when you're eight.
Third grade.
Third grade.
Yep.
Is that when after scare starts typically, or does it go even younger?
It usually goes even younger. I mean, we in Watsonville offer programs, after school care and whatnot, for as early as 5, 6 years old,
Yeah,
kindergarten.
it's pretty much
Nowadays,
when you go to school, that's when y'all start.
yeah, typically, yep.
And so what was that like? Do you remember those days? Like, what would you do? You'd get off of school at around 3, and then you'd take a bus, or you'd walk, or how was that?
No, so the after school program that I went to was on campus, and so we would literally go from classroom to the multipurpose room cafeteria and spend the rest of the afternoon there, doing homework with rec leaders and the after school team there, and then go out to the playground that we'd spend recess at during the school day. That was life. Yeah.
Grew up in the parks, so after school care by Parks and Rec. And then, were there, like, high school kids that would volunteer or get part-time jobs to be able to work with y'all? And then what does the summer program look like for that, and did you participate in that as well?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I mean, mostly high school age volunteers and staff that were there,
Mhm.
at the after school program, and then a lot of those same rec leaders, staff volunteers worked in the summer camp program. When I was there, the summer camp program was run at the junior high that I eventually ended up attending as a student, and so we'd spend Monday through Friday, at the junior high at the summer camp, doing all the typical summer camp things, arts and crafts, sports, field trips. Yeah, it was definitely a good time.
Yeah, and so you went there from 8, and then when did you start volunteering or working? You said 14 years old?
Yeah, I want to say it was about 14. I think that was the youngest they would start taking volunteers, and by that point I was aged out of the program, maybe by a year or two. But I think as soon as I could volunteer, I went back and volunteered at the summer camp program for, I want to say, 1 or 2 summers, until I was old enough to actually be hired on as a teammate, and
Mm.
kind of took off from there. It was something I had always wanted to do. I think as a kid, I really looked up to the after school staff and summer camp counselors that worked with me when I was younger, and wanted to do that as I got older. Took some or worked some other kind of side jobs in high school that I just didn't love. Worked at Baskin Robbins, worked at the Gap, and just it wasn't for me. But working in after school and summer camp, was really where I kind of found my niche.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like work. It was
Right.
just fun.
And what does that look like as far as, so you're assigned maybe 10 kids and you're kind of their camp counselor, and you bring the recess, or you have games, or you have outings? Give us a day in the life of a summer camp counselor.
Yeah. So for summer camp, I think it was more or less what you described. I had a group of about 10 kids that I would get assigned to. Back then, we broke the camp up by age group, and I always liked working with the older youth, so kind of like the 5th, 6th graders. So that's the group that I always kind of gravitated towards, and we'd spend the day kind of just with again your typical camp activities, whether it's indoor activities with arts and crafts and science projects and whatnot, or outdoor sports. Field trips are always a ton of fun. Yeah, it was just a blast. Fun way to spend the summer. A lot of my friends worked in the same camp also, so got to spend time with people my age that I really enjoyed working with, and that I was friends with at school, outside of school, at work, and got to live out my dream as a summer camp counselor.
Yeah, and one thing I'm trying to dig into is your why. Like, why are you still here? Why have you not quit yet? If everything that a city park department will throw at you, it's not known for being the highest pay. I mean, you get great benefits and you're paid well as a professional, but I think your why, at least especially for you, goes deep into your past, all the way into your a child. And maybe if you can talk about the purpose and what drives that passion in Parks and Rec, beyond obviously the pay, but rather, what fulfillment does it bring to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something I think a lot about, and I think the reason why I love my job so much is that my personal why, I think, just is intertwined with the work that we do at work. And if I were to drill things down to kind of like one or two sentences of like what is my why, I'd say it really is to kind of pay it forward and help people become their best selves and discover their best selves through kind of the vehicle of Parks and Recreation, whether that's just access to open space and parks, or through structured programs or unstructured programs, even recreation type programs. Whether that's outdoor activities, sports, the arts. I feel like the spaces and the programs that we offer really give people the opportunity to get to their full potential, and that really has become my why and the driving force behind what I do throughout my entire career. I think I started off my career obviously working with young people, and that really has been my passion, still is my passion, to make sure that young people in the communities I work for have what they need to be everything that they want to be. But I think that's grown also throughout my career. Like I found joy in working with seniors and families and everything in between as well. And I think, it's the best profession in the world.
Yeah, well, you really are taking a person from cradle to grave, because Parks and Rec works with, like you said, 5-year-olds in kindergarten and after school care, and then they have these summer programs, and then they have senior programs, and they build families all in between. And it's just such a multifaceted, challenging, maybe even speak about what are the challenges that you faced, because that's one thing I love witnessing with Parks and Rec, is it demands so many varying things from you. There's no way you're going to step into Parks and Rec and be prepared for everything it could throw at you. There's some farmer's market or zoo or event that I've never had experience with this before, and you just have to kind of figure it out. Maybe talk about the challenges and how that molds you into just a stronger, more adaptable person.
Oh yeah, would love to talk about that. So maybe I'll talk about that kind of like in the frame of kind of my life story also. So I like I mentioned, worked in after-school summer camp programs in my hometown throughout high school. Left to go to college in San Diego, and came back a couple summers back to Half Moon Bay to work the same summer camp that I worked at throughout high school. And throughout my time in college, thought that I wanted to become a teacher because I like to work with young people, and was really kind of gearing myself towards that path. My college didn't have a teacher credentialing program per se, but I worked a lot of internships and took a lot of classes to kind of gear up to go into a credentialing program after I graduated college. So post-college, enrolled in a teacher credentialing program and master's in education program, and was all set to go down that road, and woke up one morning. I was working for the city of Santa Cruz at the time, working in teen programs. Woke up one morning and just realized I can't see myself standing in a classroom all day teaching the same thing year after year after year. And it was really then that I kind of had this epiphany that there's people around me in the world of Parks and Rec that do this for a career. And, maybe that's really for me, because one of the most intriguing things about our profession is exactly what you're saying. Like, no day is the same. We get to do a little bit of everything, from program planning to park design to marketing, budget, HR, you name it. And I mean, the variety is just so vast, and it really does allow you to become, kind of a jack of all trades, for lack of better terms. Jack of all trades, master of none. But regardless, it gives you, the opportunity to kind of dabble in a whole bunch of different things that makes you, I think, kind of more global in terms of your skills. And I think has really aligned my skill set in a way that I've been able to move into the role that I'm in today. As of a few weeks ago or months ago, I became the deputy city manager for our city in Watsonville. So now I get to oversee not just Parks and Rec, but libraries and a lot of citywide initiatives like our council strategic plan, community engagement, and so forth, and get to work with all of our departments across the city, whether it's police and fire, public works, and so forth. Yeah. And I think if I didn't have the skills that I built through Parks and Rec to be able to kind of manage through problem solving and again, kind of all those different types of skill sets, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I think
I'd advise that for any young person looking to get into a field. It should challenge you. It should be a lot of varying obstacles that you need to figure out for the first time. That maybe speak about the growth that it demanded of you, because if you know how to do something already and someone asks you to do it, you don't need to grow and you're not uncomfortable. But if you involve yourself in an industry like Parks and Recreation, I promise you, it's going to ask you all the time things that you've never done before, never seen, and it's your problem to solve, because no other city department's coming to solve this farmer's market problem or whatever's thrown at you.
Yeah, so true, so true.
Yeah.
One of my mentors in my career used to always say, "If you're not squirming, you're not learning," and I really took that to heart. I think it really does speak to, just that desire and kind of ownership of lifelong learning. And I think that's so important in terms of personal growth, but also is kind of something that we have to deal with every single day in Parks and Recreation, because like challenges come your way all the time, things that just get thrown at you and you're like, I have no idea what to do with this. Like, how do I get through this? But I think what's great about our field too is that there's so many great people in our profession, so many wonderful mentors, colleagues, coworkers that you can lean on to help you get through those issues and learn from their experiences. And I think that's something that I love about our profession also, is just the sense of community within our profession and the willingness to help across the board.
Yeah. I was talking to some of the director that's coming on the show, I think from Plufferville. I forget to look up his name again, but he was saying how when people ask you what you do and people say Parks and Rec director, and they've already got this framed in their head. And he said, he started to say, I'm the leader of a multi-million-dollar agency that has multi-million-dollar facilities that focuses on the health and well-being of the people in the community. And the way he framed it, it was just like, that's Parks and Rec. It's not this, I'm at baseball games and I'm working concession stands or something, the way we think
Right, right.
of it.
Yeah, that's so true.
But how do you maybe help describe how do you communicate the value of Parks and Rec to its citizens, to its community, and maybe even roll through the different stakeholders? So you've got like the elected officials, you've got maybe the parents, maybe the people that live around a park or within walking distance of a park. Maybe help just communicate the value of it to all those people.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think something I think a lot about personally, and I know we in the state of California have talked a lot about also through the California Parks and Recreation Society. How
Mhm.
do we tell our story in a way that's effective, in a way
Yes.
that really helps to advocate for our profession? Because I think, as we all know, nationwide, probably even globally, Parks and Rec is often the first service on the chopping block in hard budget times, and we've got to figure out better ways to secure our financial sustainability and make sure that that doesn't happen. And the biggest opportunity that we have to do that is to really advocate and tell our story in a way that's effective and conveys what we bring to our community. So when I think about that question, obviously I change kind of the narrative slightly when I'm talking to constituents or electeds or whatnot. But I think the base of the story or the message is that Parks and Recreation really brings or is what creates vitality in communities. When you think about, say, like public safety, which is the usually the departments that we're compared to first, especially when it comes to budget times. Yes, you have your first responders and folks who are essential in times of emergency and life and death situations. But once you get past the initial emergency, Parks and Rec really comes in and picks up those pieces and are what makes life worth living, right? When you think about why people choose to live in a certain community, it's not because a community has the best fire stations or the best police service. It's because of our parks and because of the programs that are offered. We are what brings people together and why people choose to live where they live and be where they're at. And so when you think about kind of essential services or vital services in a community, that's really what we bring to the table is that we make communities worth living.
Right. Right. And then maybe even speak about what are some special moments that you've kind of Peter Cosmiano said this, and he's a park and rec director from Jasper, Alabama. And he's like, Craig, we are in charge of first, like first home run, first catching a ball, first learning how to swim, and we get to orchestrate that in our staff and on our facilities where children and parents are taking those first steps in so many ways. Are there, moments that you get to see people just growing and learning and being community? Maybe speak about a few of those details to bring people into your industry.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely in my early career working in direct programs with young people, I saw that all the time. Nowadays, I get to live a little bit more vicariously through
Mhm.
our team when it comes to kind of those special moments. Make it out to our programs as much as I can to witness that myself, because it really kind of recharges me. But I think we definitely see that day in and day out, whether it's like our parent taught swim lessons where we're getting kids into the pool for the first time, or our itty bitty sports program that gets preschool age youth out on the fields, playing baseball, flag football, cheerleading, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
All of those are great first moments. But I'm going to kind of flip your question a little bit, just because this story is kind of top of mind.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's a lot of great examples of those first moments, but there's also, I think, a lot of great moments that happen on the other end of the spectrum and everywhere in between. I want to tell a quick story about our senior center that happened last week. We had a senior center participant who came up to our teammates last week, who had just started coming maybe a month ago or 2 weeks ago. And she really just wanted to express to our team that prior to starting to come to the senior center, she was clinically depressed and really just didn't have much to get up for every single day. And ever since she started to come to the senior center, her life's just been turned around dramatically. She said that her doctors have even noticed the dramatic difference in her mental health and physical health just from coming to the senior center and being around other people participating in our programs. And so I think the point I want to make is that, we're responsible for a lot of firsts, but we're also responsible for a lot of, I think kind of just quality of life measures throughout a person's entire trajectory. And that to me, I think is super special.
Now, are only seniors welcome at the senior center, or can, high schoolers go and hang out with the seniors and volunteer, or tell us more about your typical senior program. I'm not as familiar with them.
Yeah, so our senior center, I mean, typically, yeah, like if you want to be a registered participant there, you've got to be over the age of 50. We are open to kind of a wider spectrum of age groups than I think your typical senior center. They're what we call older adults, but we definitely are open for high school students and other young people to come and volunteer and help out. It doesn't always work out the greatest, especially during the school year, because our youth and teens are in school while the senior center is open. But in the summer months, it's great. We had a Valentine's Day dance a couple of weeks ago at the senior center, and our youth from the youth center actually came over during the dance, brought cards and cookies that they had made. They had whole pallets of potted flowers that they had donated from Home Depot and gave that all to our seniors at the dance. So there's definitely those opportunities and those magical moments that we create, through those intergenerational programs.
Now, how do you communicate to your community? Is it mostly through just Facebook, or how do you get the word out of like events you might have? I know, and this has changed so much in the digital age with media and stuff. What are some of the new ways y'all are trying to get the message out of what programs y'all offer, events y'all are having, stuff like that?
It definitely has shifted, like you mentioned. Social media is huge. I think our Instagram following nowadays is bigger than our Facebook following. All the traditional ways, websites, flyers. Our printed activity guide is still really, really popular. We've kind of gone back and forth about whether we should just go completely digital and stick with that and not print. But so many of our community members still really appreciate the printed activity guide. So we do that 3 times a year as well. And then we try to push all of our marketing materials out through as many other channels as we can, whether that's through the city newsletter or through kind of a distribution list that the school district has. That's, I think, another great partner for us in terms of getting the word out. Our Chamber of Commerce also, we push things out through their newsletters and social media and whatnot as well.
Now tell me about y'all special events that y'all have.
Sure. We run a number of special events throughout the community. Some of them are, I'd say, pretty typical, traditional, like our summer concert series, movies in the park, and so forth. Some of our holiday events, like egg hunts and tree lightings and whatnot. But I'd say some of our signature events here in Watsonville, definitely our 4th of July parade. It's by far the largest 4th of July parade in our county. Last year, it brought about 12,000 people to our downtown. Our Strawberry Festival is probably our most well-known festival. It's the first weekend in August. It's a 3-day event, and it really celebrates our local strawberry industry here. We had about 56,000 people come to our festival last year. Again, I think probably the second largest festival outside of the county fair that happens in our county here in Santa Cruz.
Now, how do you get good at special events? I know this is something I've seen some park and rec directors. This is like their focus. This is what they've loved about it. And then others, it's something that's just they have to do because it's the machine has been running for 30 years.
Yeah, that's a really good question. For me, it's kind of a love-hate thing. I like special events. I have great people that help us run those special events nowadays. I'm personally glad that I don't do it myself because although I like running events, it's can be super stressful. And honestly, events cost a lot of money. And for the most part, if you work for a municipal government like myself, they don't generate enough money to be cost recovery, which is always a concern to me. But our community loves them, and our city council loves them, and like you said, they've been running for decades. And to think about not doing them, I think would just be
That's not
sacrilege.
right.
Or career suicide.
A mutiny on your hands.
Exactly. But I think, I mean, I think that point though too, I think is just another testament to what we do in Parks and Recreation. You know, like the fact that those events mean so much to so many people is amazing.
Yeah, I can say just personally, I came from a little town, had about 5,000 people. I think it grew up to 10 right now, so it's pretty much stayed small. But I remember all those 4th of July events, the lighting of the Christmas tree. We had one little festival. I forget what it was about, but I just remember the playgrounds and the bands and the live music and the food trucks. And that's where I got to meet all the people of the town. And when you live in a small town, you just kind of know everybody. But it was a big, oh, and we had multiple parades. I think we had 3 or 4 parades, Veterans Day parades, 4th of July parades, all that kind of stuff. It was a big, yeah, you would not survive if you tried to cancel any of that stuff. They would have a hanging or something.
Oh yeah.
All right, I did want to show a little something that we made for the Parks and Rec community. And maybe you can speak a little bit about this, but we made some career videos for Parks and Rec Direct. If you go on our YouTube channel, under videos, playlist, there's something called careers. Any director, you know, they're free to use. Don't have to ask permission. I'm giving y'all permission to use it. But if you're ever in front of a pile of high school kids that are maybe an orientation program right before summer camp, and you're the director or some professional, this can maybe help plant the seed in those, especially high school juniors, because that's the age that they're starting to think about choosing, where am I going to go? What's going to be my degree I'm going to pursue? So, and we're going to continue to make these better and better, but I'm going to just pick one of them. So if hopefully we can plant some seeds. Let's see, I'll play Hannah's is pretty good. It's about a minute. Hold on one second.
Hi there. Have you ever stopped to think about the magic of parks? The laughter of kids on a swing, the joy of family picnics, or even the peaceful moments on a hiking trail? What if you could be the one creating those moments? Imagine a career where you get to design vibrant spaces, host exciting events, and protect the beauty of nature for everyone to enjoy. Parks and Recreation isn't just a job, it's a chance to leave your mark on the world and create memories that last a lifetime. Did you know that colleges across the U.S. offer amazing degrees to help you launch a career in Parks and Recreation? From urban planning to environmental conservation, these programs equip you to make a real impact in your community. Parks and Recreation professionals across America are building legacies and transforming lives. Now it's your turn. Want to know more? Head to our YouTube channel, The Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we share stories, advice, and inspiration from those shaping our parks and communities. Don't miss out. Follow us, subscribe, and join the movement.
Yeah, so that's just, we're a bunch of social media managers and content creators. And so we made those, and then we're getting ready to make a wave of stuff for YPN, for the young people that are just getting into the industry, with the help of Molly and Gabby and bunch of other people across the country. but yeah, any of that stuff that we use, and if there's any time that you have an opportunity to sit in front of high school age kids, please speak on behalf of the industry for them to consider it, because I know for sure that the reason that this industry is not exploding with talent coming in is because people that don't even know are aware that it is a career path, that it's a fulfilling career path, that it's got to be one of the best places I've ever seen to work. So maybe pitch a high school kid real quick, Nick, on this.
I definitely will every chance I get. I mean, again, that's where I got my start. So I think I'm a living example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I wanted to talk about the subject of sustainability, whether it's cost recovery or even from the beginning, making sure that you're building things with maintenance in mind. I know that's something that y'all have thought a lot about. But maybe where do we start sustainability, sustainable revenue?
Oh gosh, this is such a big topic.
That's why it's like I saved the whole back half of the show. So important.
Well, I think you hit on a few different things, and maybe we take them kind of one piece at a time.
Yeah.
I think when I think about kind of cost recovery, revenue, and that sort of thing, I think that's probably one piece of the prong. Um, Jamie Sabak out of Colorado does a great job at kind of explaining the mission of Parks and Rec and how to look at cost recovery and financial sustainability in a really, I think, succinct and common sense type of way. And I think what she really drills down to is that you should maximize revenue where you can, because we need to do that in order to be as financially sustainable as we can. And how you do that, I mean, probably depends on the values and the types of programs that you offer in your community. But the crux of it really is that programs and services that serve the greater good of the community are the programs and services that you will likely 100% subsidize or mostly subsidize. And on the other end of the spectrum, those individualized programs and classes that really benefit individuals, say like private lessons, facility rentals and whatnot, those are the things that you try to get to 100% cost recovery, if not more than 100% cost recovery.
Right.
Because those are the things that will help to subsidize all of the other services that you offer for the greater good of your communities. And if you can get to that and look at your pricing structure in that light, and also in the light of being able to charge the most that you can possibly charge, that your community will sustain, the better off you'll be just in terms of revenue.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's just one piece of the pie, because the ability to generate revenue, I think, varies widely across different communities as well. In Watsonville, we're a pretty low socioeconomic community, and have kind of a lower tax base and lower property taxes and whatnot, or home values than other surrounding communities. And so our ability to raise revenue and generate revenue is very different from communities that are not too far from us.
Yeah.
But I think the concepts are the same as far as.
One thing I wanted to highlight, I interviewed Nick Smith over in Newaygo. He was episode number 64. And one of the things he highlighted, he said, I love multi-year contracts. And being a lifelong entrepreneur myself, even though I'm semi-retired, it's especially if a city would have said, I'll give you a 5-year contract, then all of the marketing and sales for that whole 5 years, I could just delete from the effort of that part of the company, because entrepreneurs are willing to spend 20% on sales and marketing. And so if you come up and say, hey, you don't have to worry about sales and marketing to me for 5 years, on average, I would give you a 20% discount on that entire contract. And that's just cost savings. Rather than renegotiating the contract every year, it's going to have embedded in that the negotiation process, the bidding process, the 20% for the sales rep to sit there and negotiate the deal and win the deal or lose the deal. And so just one little shift, if you've got a contractor that you've been working with and you're satisfied with, extend the life of that, and they will gladly cut savings to give it to you, so to not have the headache of having to go find new work every year. And so that was one trick that I think Nick used. Are there any others similar to that you found on ways to just cost savings in addition to cost recovery?
Cost savings. Gosh, let me think. Well, I mean, I think those relationships, and I think that's what that example comes down to also, right? The relationship that you have with the vendor or the contractor or the partner, I think is really key to that success, right? Because like if you go into a 5-year contract, like you want to hope that you've got trust in that vendor and that they'll provide the services that they say they're going to the level that they started the contract with, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
And so I think maintaining and building those partnerships, I think can really help you, whether it's a vendor or, again, say like a school district or whatnot. I think that's those partners can also help to create those types of savings.
Right.
If you can kind of figure out how to maximize resources between your agency and some of your community partners, that can generate savings. For example, with our school district, we've got a great partnership with them right now to provide after school programs. and our summer camp as well. And working with them, they've been able to actually help subsidize the cost of running summer camp over the past few summers, which has allowed us to be able to offer summer camp completely for free for students within the school district in our community. And it's been able to allow us to just blow up summer camp numbers. I mean, we've had more kids than we ever have before, and it's really because we've taken away that barrier of cost by working with the school district, and that's just been amazing. So I'd say partnerships are another great way to help with costs and long-term sustainability. In my previous job with the city of Morgan Hill, I think that's probably the greatest example of successful partnerships. I worked in this amazing setup where the city had built a recreation center, paid for the construction and maintenance and operation, but then operated the facility in partnership with the YMCA. And it was so intertwined in that so this is a large 54 or 55,000 square foot recreation facility with an indoor pool, gymnasium, senior center, teen center, childcare center, fitness center, workout rooms and whatnot. And the YMCA ran the fitness floor, the group exercise classes, and the front desk. The city took care of maintenance, the senior center, and the aquatics portion of the building. And the two teams work together kind of in tandem as just one high performing team. And what that really does essentially is that allows you to run the building at a way lower cost than it would if the city ran it all by itself with all the benefits and retirement and so forth that the city pays. And it was one of the first experiences or places that I worked at in Parks and Rec where we were able to hit 95, 100% cost recovery in most years because of that partnership. And I'd say that to me has been one of the greatest examples in my career that through partnerships, we're really able to save costs and create a sustainable model.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that cost recovery means you just have to charge people fees, but there's so many other ways like partnerships, longer contracts with vendors, that are not, making it to where a child can't afford to participate in the program, or only the wealthy people. Especially if you're not in an affluent community and you're serving an underserved community, keeping the cost low is kind of part of the mission here. But even pursuing grants and stuff like that. But what are some of those other sustainable metrics? You said there's other facets to that.
Yeah, well, I think you were talking about maintenance. Which is, I think, a big key piece to sustainability. Thinking about your existing facilities and future maintenance, and what you build next. And what we've kind of drilled down to in Watsonville is that we haven't done a great job at all over the past several decades in taking care of what we have currently. Over the past couple of years, I commissioned a couple different studies here. We did a facility assessment and then a park assessment. And what both of those assessments showed us is that we've got about $56 million in deferred maintenance needs across our parks and recreation system. And I mean, obviously we don't have $56 million to fix all of those things, and we never will, right? And so, people love to think about, let's build a new park and build a new facility and whatnot. And my response to that nowadays is, well, when we have $56 million in deferred maintenance needs, like, how do we even think about building something new? Like, let's concentrate on making what we have great and working on what we, and just make sure that the things that we already offer to the community are the best that they can be before we expand outwards. Because it's just irresponsible as a public servant to build new things that you can't afford.
Yeah, and I had another previous guest on the show that was like, you really need to celebrate all the wins, not just the brand new park, the brand new playground, but the refurbishment of the old facility. We have ribbon cutting ceremonies when our gym gets a paint.
Oh yeah.
We're inviting the mayor, and we're like cutting the ribbon, sanded the floor.
Yep. we do the same. And I think it's just as exciting, right? Because it reimagines spaces. And those projects, to me, I think are just as fun to revitalize a space that's been loved by the community for so long and make it new again.
Yeah, and really everything we do in Parks and Rec is so outward facing. I mean, when you redo a tennis court, or when you redo the basketball goals or stuff like that. The people that use these facilities notice them, and that if you can just continue to communicate that across your social media, across your stakeholders, people are willing to reinvest in the community. I had a guy on yesterday that has this huge legacy park. This park has to be worth $500 million. It's insane. It's 100-year-old. It's 380 acres. It's got a zoo in it. It's like a Disneyland over in Michigan. And so then he's given this massive park to that's been going for 100 years, and he's going to take it for another 3 or 4 years in his tenure. But he said the outpouring of the community to leave, like, will funds in some type of trust. When you're doing a great job, the community will help support it if you just can help raise awareness around it. How do you kind of involve the community in, I guess, funding or sponsorship or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think kind of leads into another prong of financial sustainability when I think about kind of all the different facets that play into that. I mean, I think as far as kind of involving the community on a regular basis, we have a lot of probably similar things that in place that other communities have. You know, we've got sponsorship programs and packages set up for our special events and for, you know, our youth sports programs and whatnot. We sell signage on our sports fields. We, you know, constantly work with our Friends of Parks and Community Services, which is our nonprofit wing that helps to raise money throughout the year for things like scholarships and capital improvement projects and whatnot. But I'd say, you know, probably our greatest success in the past few years has really been to work on other means of financial or ongoing sustainable revenues for our department in the form of tax dollars. So kind of pre-pandemic, like roll the clock back to 2019, the city was working on the renewal of a public safety sales tax measure. It's a half-cent sales tax measure that went specifically to police and fire, and it was sunsetting in, I think, 2021. So the city was going to go back out to ask the community to readopt this tax measure until repealed by voters. So basically with no sunset on it. And when we did community polling to ask what the public wanted to see in that revised version of the tax measure, the top two things that voted at the top were safe places and spaces for young people to prevent crime, and prevention programs for young people, again with the idea that helps to prevent crime, which directly speaks to, you know, what we do in Parks and Rec. And so when we went back out to the community, we retweaked that whole, again, what was just a public safety tax measure to include Parks and Rec. And so now there's a specific cutout for Parks and Rec from that revenue that comes in every year from the city. It's a small slice of the pie. I mean, the overall measure brings in about $5 million a year, and we get maybe $500,000 of that. But it's better than nothing, and it was the first kind of stab at you know, kind of creating some untouchable money for Parks and Rec, you know, that wasn't tied to the general fund. But I think what that did, I mean, I think that's the beginning of the story. What that really did was kind of set in motion this idea that Parks and Rec should have kind of standalone funding for the programs and services. And I think that, you know, the fact that tax measure passed and the polling showed that our community really does value what we do. And so we kind of rode that momentum, or started to ride that momentum right when the pandemic hit, right? So the world shut down. But I think that was another great opportunity. I mean, the silver lining in that was a great opportunity for us to shine. You know, we saw this across the whole nation where our parks were loved more than ever. You know, people flocked to our outdoor spaces and our parks.
Absolutely.
We provided, you know, childcare for essential workers and all those great things that we did in the pandemic. And as we started to reopen, you know, there was just this outcry from our community that we need our parks and we need our recreation programs, and we need them to be funded to a level that they should be. And so we kind of rode that momentum again, and then embarked on this journey to create a standalone tax measure to support parks and recreation. So in 2022, we moved in that direction and ended up passing a 0.5% sales tax in November 2022 that mostly goes to parks and recreation. Some of it now goes to libraries and roads, but about 3/4 of this new $5 million annual tax now comes directly to our department to help support programs, employees, and park projects. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. Now, reflecting back on your whole career, just what is most important to you, Nick, about Parks and Recreation?
What's most important to me? I'd say I think community impact really is what's most important to me. I've got this, I think, just intrinsic need to help others and give back to my community. And I think becoming a father, that kind of why or need has really just, I think, turned to a whole new level, because now it's just not about, what makes me feel good and what I do for my community, but it's about, what kind of world am I leaving for my kids, and then their kids also. What do I want to see this world look like? How do I want people to treat each other and whatnot? And so I'd say that's really at the heart of it.
That's a strong why there. So, okay, so now you're in city manager. Was there anything that caused that sparked the shift? Did you just want to get more into city management? Like, tell us more about that transition for you.
Good question. I'd say I don't know if this is exactly what I always wanted or even intended to do with my career. I think I became a Parks and Rec director earlier in my career than I thought I would, and have been really comfortable and have loved that role for the past, gosh, it's been like 7 years now. And thought a lot about city administration, city manager's office, and have never, at least until this point, really kind of embraced that as something that I definitely wanted to do. At least this early on in my career, I always kind of thought, well, maybe I could do that in the last 2 years of my career before I retire, but didn't think that it would become a reality, I guess, as soon as it did. And even now, I've kind of like had some hesitation in jumping in this role, to be completely honest.
Well,
and I think
just got here, right?
I just got here. Well, and it's been kind of more of a mental shift than anything else. And I think over the past few weeks, I've definitely embraced it more. Not that I regret taking on these new duties or anything by any means, because I love the work and I love our community and will serve it, right, in any way that I can. But it was almost like, kind of thinking about my career trajectory, right? Like, I've always worked in Parks and Recreation. Every job that I've had has always had either the word park or recreation in the title. Right. And this is the first time in my life, other than working in retail and whatnot, that I don't have those words in my title. And so it almost felt like I've lost part of my identity. Right. And that I'm having to say goodbye to, something that I love and cherish and has been, my life's work. But I had this epiphany and kind of talking things through with friends and others that, it really isn't about saying goodbye or losing a part of me. It's about growing outward and expanding, and being able to even in terms of Parks and Rec, being able to affect our industry and our department at a local level in even greater ways than I could as a department director. And that really kind of started to create, kind of like the positive mind shift for me to really be able to embrace what I've just stepped into in this new role. And I think it's great.
Now, have you found your replacement yet?
So what's good and bad about my new role is that I get to wear two hats. And so there is no replacement for me. I'm still the parks director, but also have taken on other duties in the city manager's office. So I'm the deputy city manager / parks director.
Permanently, or are they in time, or they just combine the roles for now?
They just combine the roles. I mean, maybe sometime long down the road, like we'll do that. But it's part of kind of this restructuring and reorg that we're doing kind of citywide, where we're condensing some positions and making do with what we have. But I think it's great too, because I still get to have my department and and do some other things on top of that. I got what others have told me, a nonprofit promotion. That happens in the nonprofit world all the time.
a nonprofit promotion. In the trades, we used to say, we'll give you a ladder if you want to raise.
Oh, there you go.
But all right. So is there anything, tell us about, because I know you're pretty active in the association there in the state of California, and y'all have probably the largest one, if not, one of the top 2 or 3 largest ones. So tell us about what that's meant to you and why people should attend that. What you get out, what's the value you bring home from going to that?
So California Parks and Recreation Society, or CPRS, is our professional organization in California. We're about 3,500 members strong. So yeah, I think we are the largest, if not almost the largest,
Right.
in the nation. It's an amazing organization. I've been involved in CPRS probably, I think, since I started my full-time career. So it's been over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, to me, has been kind of the backbone of my career. I definitely, can say honestly, I wouldn't be where I am today without the networks I've grown through CPRS, the education I've gained through the organization. I think we're fortunate in California in that it's such a large organization, but has done really well in kind of dividing things out so that it doesn't feel as large. So CPRS has divided out geographically into 15 different districts throughout California, and those districts make up 5 regions. And then there's sections also. So the society is broken up into specialty. So there's an aquatic section, a recreation section, development and operations, education, rec therapy.
Wow.
The administrator section is the section that I'm most involved with nowadays. I'm currently the admin section president for about 1 more month until I get to turn the gavel over to the next president. But that section is geared towards all of the kind of like managers, superintendents, directors in our state. Obviously, we're open to anyone and everyone, and anyone who's interested in becoming manager, superintendent, director. But again, it's really just been so fulfilling to be able to have that network, to have a society that really provides what we need to be successful in the profession, and being involved in leadership, kind of up and down the organization has been great as well. I've gotten to serve on district level boards, again on a section board. Served on the state board of directors for a number of years also, and got to help kind of steer direction for the entire organization. And those experiences, being able to work with the best of the best in our industry and in our state, really just, I think, expose you to kind of just levels of leadership and experience that you wouldn't get if you weren't involved.
Right.
So I can't say enough about how important that is to be involved in your state organizations or within RPA, and what you get out of it.
Yeah. One of the things that I think everybody struggles with is convincing the city manager to pay for you to go to this.
Sure.
And your staff. And so maybe help explain the value, like as if you're telling your city manager, I need to spend this $5,000 or $10,000 to get me and my staff here. And because last year, these are the 2 things we implemented in our city directly because of that. Are there anything around that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm fortunate in that now I get to make that decision, right, in the city manager's office.
You get to be yourself.
Exactly.
You're on both sides of the argument.
Exactly. But I think what I'd always say is that again, it goes back to that theme of continual learning, lifelong learning, and how important that is for our teammates, employees as individuals, but also as professionals. If we want to be on the cutting edge of what we do, and be on top of trends and provide the best services that we can to our community, we need to attend trainings, and we need to be exposed to everything that's out there. And if we don't, then we're going to fall behind. And kind of beyond the personal growth that happens for our professionals and what they learn and what they bring back, and in terms of programs and best practices and whatnot, the expos that happen at those events are so vitally important also, where you get to see what's out there in terms of new equipment, whether that's playground equipment or maintenance equipment, software, Seeing all of those things and being able to find vendors that you want to work with when you come back to your agencies is, I think, just as important, especially as you start to kind of move up into the ranks and, you know, make those types of, you know, kind of purchasing decisions. I think the expo is just as important as the educational sessions.
Yeah. You know, I think Nick's got the best solution that I've ever seen to this problem, and that's just become the city manager, maintain your role as director.
Right. Well, and I think really like that has that's something I've been thinking a lot about also, like in all reality, because when we think about how we tell our story and advocate for our profession in ways that are effective, that really is, I think, a key piece to the puzzle. Like if we can move beyond the point of just telling our story to, you know, our city manager or our electeds, and hope that they latch on to something that we tell them. If we can move beyond that and position ourselves so that we actually become those decision makers and those leaders, or we, you know, position our Parks and Rec commissioners, you know, as appointed officials to become city council members and county supervisors and so forth, that will really, I think, just change the level of advocacy and support that we have in our profession.
Yeah, you really understand it at that point. Okay, I didn't realize we were getting so close to the end of the show here.
Oh man,
flew by.
Good conversation.
Are there any books you recommend? Leadership books, stuff you've read, anything that's influenced you, even like YouTube channels, things you follow, stuff like that, resources?
Yeah, you know, I wish I had more time to listen to more podcasts, but you know, I think some of my favorite books, you know, Simon Sinek's Start With Why is
great one.
Go to.
Love it.
I love the Malcolm Gladwell books, pretty much everything that he puts out. I mean, less leadership-y, but more kind of just like social science, you know, how do communities work? How do people think? I studied sociology, and so like those books I think I always gravitate towards. I'd say my favorite leadership book, you know, tried and true, Good to Great, I think is still probably my favorite leadership book.
It's on my bookshelf somewhere.
I've got it too.
Jim Collins.
Yeah.
Great book. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I loved most about him, aside from the flywheel, that building that momentum, which I think is so important. And actually, I would say Parks Department, you're stepping into a program with 100 years of momentum. And so talk about momentum going, but I love how he talks about getting the wrong people off the bus,
mm-hmm.
getting the right people on the bus, and putting the right people in the right seats. And each one of those is its own, like, who on this bus needs to get off?
Yeah.
You might have the right guy on the bus, but you're in a totally wrong seat. And that's a great study of any organization, is to go through that mental work to kind of put everybody in the right spot. That was a good lesson. Any famous or a quote?
Oh, famous quote. You know, this quote I have, I think, on my LinkedIn page and most of my social media pages. And I don't know who said this or where it comes from, but it says, the purpose of life is to live a life of purpose.
I love that.
I just love that. It's short, succinct, and I think just really speaks to everything that I believe in terms of our industry, our profession, and life in general.
Yeah. And I think it's I see people just chasing success or chasing wealth, but what you really want is that purpose, that you have meaning in life. It's man's quest for meaning, and that a lot of times when you're chasing success, you never catch it. It always just, you need a little bit more.
Yeah.
Meaning and purpose in life, to me, that's where you can really sink your teeth into. Best advice and worst advice.
Oh gosh. Best advice. I think just be true to yourself. You know, be your genuine self as much as you can, and be kind. You can't see it right now, but there's a poster that sits behind. I have two offices now, one in the city manager's office, one back at the Parks Department, but I have the same thing in both locations. And it's a quote from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and it just says, "Be excellent to each other."
I love it.
I said, you know, it's probably the best advice. Just be kind, be nice.
Right. Worst advice you've ever gotten?
Worst advice I've ever gotten? Gosh, I'll have to think about that one. I can't think of something off the top of my head. Worst
Quit.
advice.
That's a terrible advice. Fantastic. Well, this has been a blast. We'll have to get you back and check in your new role, see if you're still alive or if you've decided to just, I can't take this anymore. But I'm so interested to see how you combine these roles. And then I'm going to do my best to try to get out to California at one point. If I can't make this one coming up, I'd love to go to y'all's convention. I hear such great things about it.
Yeah, we would love to have you.
Yeah, I'll do my podcast from there. That's typically what I do. I bring the whole podcast thing and I just interview a bunch of people like yourself.
Oh, that's great.
And so, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
this has been fun.
Yeah, appreciate you, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Anytime.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. So that was Nick from Watsonville, California. Great guy. I love his story about how he's just from childhood. And I think that's where a lot of people get exposure to Parks and Recreation. You may not know this, but Parks and Rec departments are typically the largest employer of high school kids, and Nick being one of them. And remember when he was volunteering or when he became a paid staff, maybe at 16, 17, he had been in the program for 8 years, started at 8. And so many children are inside the Parks and Rec after school care, summer programs. It's really having a large impact in their life. And then these are the men that are leading these programs. Fast forward 30 years, he orchestrates the entire Parks and Rec department, after school care, senior care, special events. But the depth of his understanding and knowledge goes all the way back to 8 years old. I mean, what a robust and foundation that is of leadership. And I've seen this so common in Parks and Rec that the reason they are doing so good in after school care is because they were the after school care kid. And it goes back to, I want to make sure that a younger version of myself is cared for, and that the city's looking out for them, and they can create these safe spaces for them to make friends and to grow and to learn. Wow, what a great way to lead. And I love Nick's why. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Nick. Okay, so thank you to Traps. Man, it was chaos. I barely made it there last minute, and then I had several meetings off premises and did not get to air any of my podcasts from there. I caught the tail end of it, but really appreciate what Traps does, and great association as well. All right, so if you would like to work with us or support the channel right now, what we figured out is we have social media managers and video content creators, and cities are starting to use us to create content for their special event. So if you need a video created for your festival or for your farmers market or just for the city in general or Parks and Recreation, please consider using us. And we use all that money to grow the daily Parks and Rec show and the group of artists to tell the story of Parks and Rec. This is what we're here for. We want to build a media company that tells the story of Parks and Rec, lifts up guys like Nick as a great leader in the community for high schoolers and college kids to consider taking the torch from him whenever he retires. And we need good leaders in Parks and Recreation. So, and the second way for you to work with us is, I used to manufacture LED lights in a former life. I'm retired from that now, but my biggest seller was always that workhorse sports arena light. This one I still have as just memorabilia here, but $850, and that is a direct replacement for your neighborhood park. And this sucker has 100,000-hour lifespan, never goes out. Our warranty it's pretty much a lifetime warranty on this fixture because these things will last 40, 50 years. So if you'd like to shift some of your buying patterns and help support the show, that's a way you can do it. Really, and also one of the best ways you can support the show is just share it, like it. We're still growing all the channels. So on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, here on X, this is just a building year where we build out the whole system, we build out the platforms, we bring excellent leadership from the community, give them a platform to speak. And so I'm hoping by the end of this year, we should be a solid media company, specifically geared to Parks and Recreation. I also do something similar for the Bitcoin community in the evening. That's where I found my passion of creating media, telling stories about something I'm passionate about. So I do a show at night, 9 p.m., and I've got a lot of Parks and Rec people asking me, so what's this about Bitcoin stuff and how does this tie in? This is when I retired from my other company that I sold. It's this is where I learned how to create media, and I fell in love with it. And I looked back at Parks and Recreation, and I said, y'all need to, you see what these Bitcoiners are doing? There's thousands of content creators telling the story, education, all this kind of stuff. And in Parks and Recreation, 100-year-old massive industry that's beautifying our cities, making an impact. I just felt like there wasn't near the representation on producing media to get the word out. And so as much as I tried to push my director friends to do this, they just kept pointing it back at me and say, you do it. And so November, December, we just decided we were going to do this, and it has been a blast. I am probably going to do this till I'm dead. I love telling the story of Parks and Rec. So thank you to Nick and all the directors and superintendents that have come on the show to share with the world pretty much what goes on in Parks and Rec, how valuable it is, the impact it's having on the community, the kids, the elderly, the families. And this is just a story that I think has been hidden long enough, and we need to get it out there in the open. So I appreciate all the help and feedback. The encouragement is crazy that we're getting from the community. Thank y'all so much. Y'all got me making my head swell. But really, y'all are the story. Y'all are the story that I'm honored to tell. So appreciate that. This will be our last show of the week. We will start again on Monday, every day, 12 noon, Monday through Friday. We will be telling the Parks and Rec story, trying to get on the road as often as we can. So tune in to us live here on X, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and please start liking and subscribing that YouTube channel, because we can go live on YouTube as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers. But because we're so young, I think we're getting ready to around 130. So look for us there. And I will see y'all again here on Monday. Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Love you guys. Y'all have a great weekend.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of Parks and Recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.